Hello, students. Welcome. Today, let's do a quick revision of a very important topic from your chapter on life processes, and that is excretion. So let's begin.
So, to begin, let's just think about a simple question. Imagine for a moment, what would happen if all the waste products from the millions of chemical reactions happening inside our body, what if they were just never removed? Think of it like a city that has no garbage collection. What would happen? Very quickly, all the waste would just pile up, it would become toxic, and everything would come to a stop. Well, the exact same thing would happen inside our bodies, poisoning our cells and shutting down all our essential functions.
So, to prevent this from happening, our body has a really amazing, super efficient system just for removing waste. And we call this the human excretory system. You can think of it as our body's own personal 24/7 cleaning service. Okay, so let's look at the parts. What makes up this system? It's made up of four main components. First, we have a pair of bean-shaped kidneys. Then, there's a pair of tubes called ureters that come out from the kidneys. These lead to a muscular bag called the urinary bladder, which stores the urine. And finally, there is the urethra, which is the passage through which urine is passed out of the body. Now, out of all these parts, the kidneys are really the star players. They are the main organs of this whole system. Think of them as incredibly advanced filters that are constantly, day and night, cleaning our blood. And their main job is to remove harmful nitrogenous wastes, like urea. So the big question is, how do these small, bean-shaped organs do such a big and complex job? Well, to understand that, we need to zoom right in, like with a microscope, and take a closer look at the structures inside the kidney. You see, the real magic of filtration happens in millions of these tiny, microscopic, coiled tubes called nephrons. The nephron is the basic filtration unit, and here is an amazing fact for you. Each one of your kidneys has about 1 million of these tiny filters. Can you believe it? Millions of tiny filters all working together perfectly to keep your blood clean. Now, the formation of urine inside each of these nephrons, it's not just a simple one-step process. It's a very logical, systematic, three-step process. And don't worry, it's very easy to understand once we break it down. All right, so here are the three key steps. First, we have filtration. Blood enters the nephron under very high pressure, and this pressure forces all the small molecules, like water, glucose, salts, and, of course, urea, out of the blood and into the nephron's tube. Next is reabsorption. Now, the body is very smart, It doesn't want to throw away anything useful, so it carefully takes back the good stuff like all the glucose, amino acids, and just the right amount of water back into the blood. And finally, we have secretion. This is like the final cleanup step where any remaining waste products that are still in the blood are actively pushed into the filtrate. So after these three steps are complete, the liquid that is left behind is the final urine. It's mostly water with dissolved nitrogenous wastes like urea in it. This urine then travels down the ureters, gets stored for a while in the urinary bladder, and is finally expelled from the body. But sometimes things can go wrong, maybe because of an infection or an injury or even high blood pressure. The kidneys can stop working properly. So what happens then? What is the solution when this vital filtering system of ours fails? Well, in such cases, there is a life-saving procedure called hemodialysis. This process uses a machine, you can call it an artificial kidney, to filter the blood outside the body. It basically does the job of the kidneys removing all the waste and helping the person to survive. Okay, so that is all about us humans and other animals. But have you ever wondered about plants? Plants also have metabolic processes, right? So they also produce waste, but they don't have kidneys. So how do they get rid of their waste products? Plants are actually very clever about this. They have multiple strategies. For gaseous waste, like the oxygen they produce during photosynthesis, they just release it through tiny pores in their leaves called stomata. They also release excess water this way, in a process we call transpiration. For other wastes, they have a brilliant idea. They store it in old leaves and then just let the leaves fall off. Simple, no? You may have also seen gums and resins coming out of the bark of some trees. That's another way. And some plants can even excrete waste into the soil around them. So if you look at them side by side, you can see a very big difference in their strategy. Animals have these complex, specialized organs, like kidneys to actively filter and throw out waste. But plants, because they are stationary, they use more passive methods. They store waste in parts they can get rid of, like leaves, or they convert it into harmless things like gums. It's a completely different approach to solve the same problem. All right, now we come to what is probably the most important part of this revision, especially for your exams. It is so important to understand that excretion does not happen on its own. It is deeply connected to all the other life processes. Let's connect all the dots, shall we? It all begins with nutrition. We eat food, and that gives us the raw materials and the energy that our body needs to grow, to repair itself, and to function. But that food is just the raw material. To get energy from it, we need the next process, which is respiration. This is the process where our cells break down the food to actually release the energy that powers every single thing that we do. Okay, so now we have nutrients and energy, but we also have waste products. How do all these things move around the body? That's where transportation comes in. Our circulatory system, our blood. It acts like a delivery network. It carries all the good stuff like nutrients and oxygen to the cells. And very importantly, it also picks up all the waste products. And this brings us right back to where we started. That transportation system brings all the waste to the excretory system, which then performs the final cleanup. It removes all the waste produced from nutrition and respiration, and this is what keeps our body healthy and in balance. So, this is the main point to remember. Please remember this for your exams. This quote says it all. Life processes do not work in isolation. They function together to sustain life. Nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion, they are all linked. They are all parts of one single, beautifully integrated system. One cannot work without the others.